Hugh Hefner, genius or exploder? Did he liberate America from hypocrisy or spend his life humiliating women for money? Let's find out. Hugh Marston Hefner was born in the spring of 1926 to Grace Caroline Swanson and Glenn Lucius Hefner from Chicago. The strict morals of his Protestant parents left their mark on the child's psyche. He and his younger brother, Keith, were raised to live an ascetic life, forbidden to socialize with peers, and the only approved leisure activity was church. Glenn Lucius was so pious that he discussed any domestic issue with the local pastor. With a sad expression, the boy watched the children frolicking in the yard through the window. He wanted to play with them, but he had to obey his elders. Even going to the movie theater was strictly taboo. In their family, cinema was considered a diabolical temptation, despite the Hays Code in America at the time, which prohibited films that undermined morality and ethical principles from being shown. Grace Caroline forced Hugh to study his homework down to the last comma, but outside the school curriculum, the only reading allowed was the Bible. As a teenager, Hefner would sneak books home and read voraciously until an adult showed up. He recalls devoured all of Edgar Allan Poe's works, and in high school, he admired Sigmund Freud and Alfred Kinsey. At school, away from parental supervision, the young man transformed. Hef started a school newspaper, wrote his own articles and drew cartoons. He excelled at writing essays, and his literature teacher even encouraged him to try his hand at journalism. Female classmates noticed the handsome boy, but his strict upbringing prevented him from even forming friendships with the opposite sex. Everything changed when Hefner was drafted into the Army right after high school. It was 1944, during World War I. One of his classmates confessed her feelings to the young man and promised to wait. After giving her a chaste kiss on the cheek, Hef went off to serve. While learning the basics of military science in a training company, he began producing a combat bulletin and drawing. In 1945, he was sent to the front, and in 1946, he was discharged and became a student at the Art Institute of Chicago. Then enrolled in the psychology department at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. He worked part-time as an editor for Shaft magazine, writing the Student of the Month column. In 1949, his comic book, That Toddlin' Town, about Chicago, was published. In 1951, Hefner was hired as an editor at Esquire, a men's magazine. Hugh carefully selected publications for the headings business, politics, sports, fashion, and others. But when, a couple of years later, he asked the management to raise his salary by $5, he was categorically refused. But he already had his own business idea, which he decided to bring to life. Leaving his greedy employers, Hugh rushed to find money. He took out a $600 loan from the bank against the furniture, borrowed another $8.00 from friends and acquaintances, and his mother lent him $1,000. December 1953, the first issue of Playboy magazine, with a black and white photograph of rising movie star Marilyn Monroe on the cover, and color photographs of the naked actress inside, hit the shelves. The publisher, who doubted the success, did not even number the magazine, and meanwhile it sold out with lightning speed. When sales exceeded 50,000 copies, an enthusiastic Hefner set about preparing a new issue. Together with the first designer Art Paul, he came up with the logo in just a few minutes. Now the world-famous rabbit. The magazine's ratings increased significantly after Hefner began publishing photos of the Playboy girlfriend on the inside page. The prize for the Playmate of the Month was an amount of $25,000, and the winner of the year received $100,000, a motorcycle and a prestigious car. After 2 years of publishing, Hugh first declared himself as an advocate for people of non-traditional orientation. He published a fantasy short story by Charles Beaumont called The Crook in his magazine. In his work, the writer invented a society in which homosexual relationships were the norm, and heterosexuals, both men and women, were considered outcasts and a minority. A huge scandal broke out. Bags of letters from outraged readers began to arrive at the editorial office. Hefner responded to all the dissatisfied people in the Playboy editor's column like this: if, in your opinion, the persecution of heterosexuals, a homosexual society, is bad, then the persecution of homosexuals, a heterosexual society, is also bad. In 1960, Indefatigable with ideas, Hef opened his first nightclub in Chicago, the Playboy Club. Waitresses with rabbit tails and ears served drinks and ordered food to the guests, while they enjoyed the performances of famous comedians and musicians. In the early 80s, there were already more than 40 similar clubs, and in different parts of the world. Having a Playboy Club card was considered one of the attributes of prestige, and belonging to the elite with progressive views. In 1985, the publisher suffered a stroke, after which he handed over the reins of the company to his daughter Christy. He himself remained a symbol of his own brand until the end of his days. However, Playboy has become more than a brand, it's a lifestyle. In 1949, Hugh married a classmate who was waiting for him from the army. His marriage to Mildred Williams, he said, was in line with the traditions of his puritanical family, although the girl herself was not so conservative and shy. The courtship lasted for a long time, and they began their sex life almost simultaneously with the wedding. Mildred gave birth to a daughter, Christy, in 1952, and a son, David Paul, in 1955. Although Hefner was a good father, he later called the 10 years of married life with a classmate the most unhappy. In 1959, Williams, calling her husband a domestic tyrant and a sexual maniac, filed for divorce and left with her children. After the breakup, Hugh preferred the freedom of a relationship, every now and then getting on the pages of the tabloid press with another blonde beauty. It wasn't until 1989 that the media mogul settled down, marrying model Kimberly Conrad. In 1990, the woman gave birth to her son Marston, and a year later his brother Cooper was born. The second family life, by a strange coincidence, also lasted 10 years. The couple broke up in 1999, although the official divorce took place only in 2009. With the beginning of the millennium, Hef threw himself into all the hardships. He settled 7 young girls in his villa, with whom he lived until 2004. Then 18-year-old Tina Jordan became his common-law wife. Hefner turned 78 at the time. The girl soon left the estate of her age-old lover, as he became interested in the model and singer Crystal Harris, who was 60 years younger than him. Several times since 2009, Hugh proposed to the girl. It almost came to the wedding, but they got married only in 2012. Moreover, according to the prenuptial agreement, after the death of her husband, Crystal had no right to claim the inheritance. However, Hefner presented his young wife with a luxurious house. The model and the Playboy creator lived together for almost 5 years until Hefner's death. During the media mogul's lifetime, the documentary Hugh Hefner, Playboy, Activist and Rebel 2009 was shot about him. The publisher confirmed that, in general, his life story is reflected fairly reliably. Although the picture turned, he also noted that in some places, sex and his life are shown ambiguously, which only made the film more interesting. The last public photo Hefner posted on social media was a photo with his sons Cooper and Marston, who came to wish Hugh a happy Father's Day. It sat down to play backgammon with him. In 2017, the 91-year-old Playboy founder died in his own home. He was buried in Westwood Memorial Park, next to the Marilyn Monroe crypt. What was your impression after watching the video? Write in the comments. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. See you next video.